Oh, that's not right here. All right, welcome everyone. And I am just going to talk for a minute before Polly jumps in. Um, Find stuff too. So in human design, the sun, hang on, let me just get it so people can see here.
What is it?
This is, I'm putting the screen up so people can see. There we go. In human design, the sun has just moved into gate 27, which is the gate of nurturing and caretaking. And it's also codependency. And underneath that, this earth is in the gate of struggle. What's a good struggle? And this codependency, nurturing theme is core to Polly's awakening. So we felt like it would be a really fundamental teaching to bring in today in alignment with what's going on planetarily. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to you, Polly.
Yeah, the principle and the teaching for this Sangha um, tends to derive off of my own experience necessarily, but the experience that Robin is pointing to, all of you online and in the room know that it was the awakening out of a kind of, you might call it a terminal codependency, right? That I had with my sister and my youngest son. So that's just a way to talk about it from my own experience and the way that got set up for me. Interestingly enough, in our culture, one of the biggest, what we would call programming tools, is this idea of being selfless, to be here on behalf of others, to be here in service to others. Most of you have heard the story I tell about going to a Black church in LA or Alabama when I was probably 5 or 6, something like that. And I loved going there because, for one thing, I thought they were so much more beautiful than all these white people I knew that were all my cousins and myself. Mm-hmm. And also that they had a lot more better music, I thought. So all that put together, I was like happy to be there. But one day in the Sunday school class, the Sunday school teacher was holding forth about how we're here to serve, and we're here to serve others and to, like missionaries. She was pointing to the missionaries and pointing to all of the people who, the meaningful life is a life of service to others, right? And it just hit me that there was a problem. It's like, Houston, we've got a problem. But it was like something was out of line there. And so I held up my hand, and I was very shy. And this was the whitest hand in the room for sure. And I'm holding my head up, and she says, "Yes, Miss Patty, what, honey, what do you want to know?" I said, "Ma'am, what are the others supposed to be doing?" So it had kind of dawned in my understanding that everybody was here about serving others. Like, this is not going to work out very well, right? So it's that's a pointer to the prevalence in Western culture, especially, and in America for sure, the prevalence of the teaching of self-sacrifice. And I think it does come from a misinterpretation, I think, of the Bible, of Western Christianity and so forth. So missionaries and all of that, and the idea that we're here to sacrifice on behalf of, in quotes, others. So one of the most damning in terms of actually both contribution and self awakening comes from the codependency that was a pattern in my life. And it has to do with this idea of here on behalf of others. right? So there is a way in which you have to be true north on your own behalf in operation from this place, and be of of great benefit to reality. But if you are off kilter, like trying to be good to other people or trying to do what I did, which was take up all the slack for somebody usually in the family, then that frequency is one that does not create optimum unfolding, one would say. So when we start, one of the teachings that we have in the Sangha here is being on one's own behalf. There's a kind of correlation here. In order to be on one's own behalf, you have to be clear here in an awareness of what you're wanting to experience. The first thing that does is that you're then not projecting onto somebody else that they should be giving you that, right? So the first thing is you're in touch with what you're wanting to experience. And from that place, you're available to interact with whatever others are a part of your reality. You know, in the Sangha, we have a whole Sangha full of others, which we all love each other and support each other, and it works out beautifully. The error that comes from not being on one's own behalf, then there is a hole there, right? It's not like somebody else is going to take up that slack. If you don't do it, it ain't getting done. That's what becomes obvious energetically. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about an energetic reality, a frequency reality. The frequency of being on one's own behalf is not narcissistic or self-involved. It's simply taking care of things here. From that place, we are of benefit to the morphogenetic field of consciousness, actually. So there is the awareness that comes from the collective conditioning again, that often tries to convince people that they're here on behalf of others. The appearance of that as it shows up in real life is one that leaves difficulties, right? If a person decides to take care of others, for instance, whether it's a family situation or a tribal situation or a community group, whatever, and they haven't taken care of themselves first, it is the great correlation that everybody uses is the one of the oxygen masks in the airplane. You put yours on first before you put on the child's or the dependent one. So being inherently coordinated, present, what we would think of energetically as true north makes you available for full participation in an external reality. If you are tilted toward the need to be loved, sometimes that'll create codependency. I don't think my codependency with my sister was out of love. I think I just wanted her to shut the fuck up, actually. Right? I mean, motivations can be very different, and we can talk about those. But is everybody in the room and on the Zoom in agreement with what I'm pointing to as being on your own behalf? Can you take a
Yes.
Looks like he yeses.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that you told me that this is one of the most common distortions, and that it appears to be based in generosity, but it's actually based in fear.
That was the point. Yeah. We look like a good person if we're here in some version of sacrificing ourselves for the good of an other or a group, right? But it's actually the fear of not being included, the fear of not being appreciated, the fear of not being accepted. And so we ingratiate ourselves in this way of overextending.
So it's out of some deficiency
Right.
rather than the overflow. you said it's natural to give.
Totally,
It's a natural free flow.
absolutely.
But I think, for me, I find this other level or layer, especially for a lot of people that I've worked with, where they wake up in the morning and if they're not productive or they don't do something for someone, then they're guilty and they're bad.
That's
So
right.
it's, and I think society puts
There's a
that
collective conditioning.
on you, you have to produce.
That's right. That's
You
right.
can't just
Right.
sit and watch the butterflies.
Right. Yeah, so that takes us back to the fundamental shift in the collective conditioning now that, I mean, if we don't have to necessarily point to AI, but that's the obvious one, elephant in the living room. With all of that going on, the purpose of participation from a person, from a human being, gets to be very different than when the farmer had 5 kids because he needed somebody to help on the farm. At this point, like productivity is a different thing, and that's what human consciousness is moving through now, and we participate in that by this particular intersection that we're pointing to today, that has to do with being on one's own behalf, and from that place being available for true connection, being available for authentic relationship and contribution. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
kind of had the situation where Robert and I are having a discussion on what is truly being on your own behalf. Because we went to go eat, and he very clearly stated what he did not want. It was all in agreement. Then we waited for forever and mayonnaise, and when we got it, it was covered in
what?
mayonnaise and everything that he wrote. So he very graciously, instead he didn't get upset and like he could have, and he tried to just be as pleasant as possible and just get rid of the bun and pick out what he would eat and go along, which is good. Sweetness is good, but then at the same time he was still hungry, and we're coming home and he's talking about how it really didn't hit the spot for him, and I'm like, right there is a good example of not being on your own behalf. That's a putting sugar over shit, as Polly would say. And I'm like, because you were very pleasant and that is great, and I appreciate that you did make a better experience for me for being pleasant. But by being on your own behalf, it would be kindly letting them know this isn't done right.
Well, this is not what I ordered.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the clarity that comes, when we're trying to be nice and good, which we've all been programmed to be, and often our expression is like against that programming, right? So we can act out, right? You think of the 2-year-old or something. But the clarity that comes from authenticity, when you're not trying to control somebody else, if you're in clarity from your own perspective, the frequency of that will hardly ever land to create flashback, or what would you call it? Like kick, what do you call it?
Yeah.
Kind of backlash. Yeah, the backlash. It'll hardly ever, because the frequency is what everybody's picking up on, unknown to them, unbeknownst to them. So it's so now Robert has permission to say, take the whole thing back. I didn't want any mayo on anything.
I don't think he wanted to wait another half hour for the food.
Right.
But
these trade-offs are real also.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So as we move towards being on our own behalf, the things that stop us from being on our own behalf, to some degree, might be our own self-image as being easygoing or being kind, or another one might be a kind of fear factor, like And like if in a family, say a large family with all the kids at the table and somebody acted out, then everything turned to shit right there, right? So there are a lot of unknown and unaware motivations for the way in which we behave. But as you just ease into us, because you're no longer caught and I'm not good enough and I don't matter, then you just say, this is what needs to happen here. It starts to be just because you're not trying to affect or get anything from out there. Is this making sense?
Yeah, I think so. Or any questions? Anybody having any questions in the room or? I mean, none of us do this, right?
Well, that's the thing. I'm preaching to the choir here.
I mean, I think it's so slippery. It's so, like, I can see with me with Yara, like, she wants something and I just go along with it because it's easy. It's easier almost
Right.
than to be on my own behalf,
Mhm.
you know, because otherwise we have to negotiate something.
But I have a question there. So both in this example where I was eating and in your example, there's not just the motivation of, oh gee, I want my sandwich the way I want my sandwich. There's also the motivation of, I like it now.
Mhm.
And there's the motivation of, I want the whole thing to be pleasant for myself and everyone else. So it's not just is the sandwich the way I want.
No, it's not just that.
And so in your relationship issue, it's not just do I want to go where Yara wants to go to Safeway? Do I want to go to Safeway? Isn't it also do I want to support Yara?
Right.
Do I want to be?
Mhm.
But for me, the issue really is I don't even ask me.
You don't even check in with
I don't
yourself.
even check in with me. The patterns are so, the loops, the way of behaving of comfort and ease is so well greased, well oiled that I don't check and see, well, I'd rather do this.
And that's what we're actually pointing to as
Makes sense.
as to the common conditioning that most all of us go through.
I have another layer that I noticed when you guys were talking about, like, if I was in Christie's position, I would be demanding that Robert take care of himself and to like get the burger the way he wants it. And it would like, that would be more my codependency
Right.
thing, like making sure that everybody's okay, that they have what they want. And there isn't any pain or problem.
Yeah, it definitely can turn in any of the players that are involved in different directions,
Right.
but based in the same idea.
So how do I look at that around being on my own behalf? I guess just like not getting myself drawn into a problem that maybe isn't even there.
Well, for most of us, we are conditioned to try to make things better or good for others, right? Family members especially. And the teaching would be that it let everybody be on their own behalf and deal with in whatever way they want to. In other words, mind your own business, right?
I think that I really need to
What?
learn that, especially with my kids, even though they're like thousands of miles away. I still like want to say, shouldn't you be filing your taxes? Whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's really more complicated than it seemed in the beginning, discussing this. So I could see myself showing.
Can you speak up a little bit?
I can see myself watching her sort of give in to things that I know she really doesn't want to.
Are you talking about
She
Shelley?
does.
Yeah.
And it drives me nuts, you know, and it's like, how do I not say something? How do I say something? It's just hard to watch. Like maybe someone's walking all over her and I see that. And she doesn't say anything. Maybe she says more than she used to.
Uh-huh.
a little bit, so. What should I say? Gee, you're saying more than you used to, but you're still letting somebody walk.
Well, you know, I love you and I would love it if you were representing yourself more authentically. Or, you know, come to the Sangha, right? We talk about this shit there, right? No, but it's letting it be, you bump into exactly that.
So I have a question, because I think this is on the other side of it. I don't know that it's victimless, although it might be. But it's like wanting to say, someone to ask me, how are you? Does that play into this?
Which one are you
Like
being?
me being the person of wanting someone, you know, we're talking about being on your own behalf
Mhm.
and mind your own business. So it's definitely hooked into that. But just wanting someone to say, how are you?
You want somebody else to say that to you?
Yes,
Yeah, you probably have to say it to them first.
That's true.
you have to say it to them first.
Probably.
Yeah,
I mean, if that's the exchange that you like to hear, what that actually points to is some way in which you're wanting something from out there that you're not giving to yourself. Which with
Got it.
how are you is pretty neutral. I mean, it's kind of mild and neutral, but it may point to something that you're not in a way that you're not on your own side.
one other piece just kind of surfaced. Let me see if I can touch it. Um, mm. So as a generator, right?
Mhm.
Then, and I'm thinking that I don't have a generator completely perfectly understood, but I'm supposed to wait for someone to ask me. Is that accurate
Polly's
or
talking about
inaccurate?
something different. She's talking about before that, beyond that, you to you.
Yeah.
You're trying
No,
to
no,
get
I-
something external that is between you and you.
Yes, and it's an important, I mean, this is the crux of it.
Yeah.
But also as a generator,
Yeah, you can't do that. You can't.
That transition, that'll probably keep you from, go ahead and say what you were gonna say, as a generator, what?
well, it's not, if I'm understanding it correctly, it's not for me to ask.
Yourself?
So
You,
that's perfect,
you to you.
right? That's really perfect.
Yeah,
So it still starts with me asking
that's
myself.
right, that's right.
And then what happens?
We see.
You answer.
You see, the thing is, I think the thing Polly's pointing to, and tell me if I've got this wrong, Polly, is that we're trying to get something out there instead of giving it to ourselves in here.
I definitely get that. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to fit in two things that maybe are kind of a.
See, the universe is always coming up and giving you things to respond to. You don't have to wait around for something to respond to. It's always giving you something, but if there's a deficiency, that's you to listen
No,
to.
this is right on. This is right on. But I think what I've done is I've put in another stipulation, if that's the right word.
Shit stirrer.
Say again?
Shit stirrer,
Shit stirred, yes,
right?
yes.
That's what minds tend to do, you know, everybody's does.
So we
that.
want to get it right, right?
Yeah.
You're putting in the
That's-
generator picture so you can do it right, so you can navigate the world
Yes.
right.
Yes,
And we can't do it that way. It doesn't work.
so as a generator, obviously I always give it to myself, you know, that's the point. But should I even consider?
So
that
you're
I'm
way up in your head trying to figure something out.
Absolutely,
You can't figure it out. The generator's from the sacral, it's a response.
great. Useful. Right, which is where you ask for, is this a sacral response?
Mhm.
If you want to know how you're feeling and you don't know how, you can walk up to Tashina and say, Tashina, will you ask me how I'm feeling so I can touch into it? Or will you sit and listen to me for 5 minutes while I you can ask for that if you want it.
Uh-huh. I didn't have that.
But what you're,
Another piece
if I
of it,
understood you, you're pointing to asking yourself.
Yeah, you're asking yourself, if you want to use someone to get to know yourself, do it directly.
this is just opening up a lovely new world. Thank you. So I could, if I want feedback, it doesn't mean I have to wait for the feedback. It means I can ask for the feedback.
You may or may not get it, you can ask, yeah.
And so that bypasses this whole, I don't know, if bypass is the right word, but this engages this piece of always having to wait to ask.
You're
Which
responsible.
is how I interpreted it, which is incorrect.
Yeah, we're each responsible for ourselves.
Yes, but it has to be that way.
Yeah.
But I think what you said, Robin, is I'm overriding that to trying to be right to fit into a system.
Mhm.
So that's the big misunderstanding.
Mhm.
Thank you. Very happy.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Anyone else grappling with your giving, your generosity, your identity as someone who's generous, and you don't want to give that up because that's
just who you are.
Let's hear from Tashina.
You know, of course, I can relate to all of this. And I tried all different versions of it. And I understand that I have a lot of service in my chart and in my human design. And I come from the background where there is codependency with alcoholic family. And I've come to the place where I only can tell whether I'm there or I'm not there. And codependency, and no one, it might look the same on the outside.
Mhm.
I might still be in service, but if I'm not on my own behalf,
That's right.
and only I'm gonna know.
That's right.
That's what I'm figuring out, and it's an intimate relationship with myself and self-inquiry.
Yeah, you have to tell yourself the truth.
Yeah, and often, and in fact, I went through this cycle where I was told that I was in the codependency, and I finally got it, and I had like 5 people in a very short period of time ask me to do all kinds of different things. And it was like boom, 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 and they were all right in my face. And the last one I was like, no, and it came out almost like a scarf in a way, because I was finally got the answer to really stand up for myself and say no. And it triggered, and it maybe you remember this, that it triggered a place where that if I wasn't, I had that upbringing, that if I wasn't in service like the church girl or whatever, that it came down to that I would be loved,
Mhm.
and that it from God, from being accepted and a good
Right.
child, and that and I couldn't say no, I couldn't do it that way, and that was really, really deep. And that last one of saying no was what triggered the whole really
Mhm.
big story for me that just blew the whole thing up. It was really great. So it's really a practice for me to say no, and to see what triggers inside me when I do that.
Mm.
And then, yeah, it's really big. And sometimes I say yes, and I want to say yes, and then I'm doing it. I'm going, oh, this is interesting. I'm just watching what the result was
Mhm.
of doing it when I thought I was on my own behalf, and I wasn't really, and I didn't
Right.
know until I was in there. It's a great subject for me,
Yeah.
and I was just spending my whole morning making a meal for my beloved that was having a client over, and I really did it up, and I was really enjoying it.
Yeah.
And then I was also watching it. It's kind of like it's a sword of right there on the edge of this is really cool, and I'm enjoying it to oh, is this, where am I at here? And it's really an edge. So that's what I'm at.
And one of the ways we know that, in my experience, is if your beloved has a comment about the meal, or we don't get back, doesn't comment, we don't get back.
Yeah, total gratitude on both parties, everyone.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah, but if it did, then I would know.
Then we go into transactional, and then we're back in this. Oh, this is a transaction.
Yeah, because I was affected by it. I was doing it to get accepted or loved or
Mhm.
Some
Something.
feedback, some
Yeah.
kudos, some.
Yeah.
Just
And I
being,
can see
just
it. I
being
see
good.
that. Yeah, Okay, good.
Just to label, I'm good.
I want to admit, I love getting appreciations, and that's something I'm being honest about, and I know where that's feeding something that's a lack inside of myself.
Yeah, when you know that as an aspect of the dynamic, find the way in which you haven't appreciated yourself,
Yeah.
because there's some close-in work that you can do there. It's important.
And I want to say, this is my truth too, I really appreciate who I am, and I love myself a lot. I really feel it real, it's real.
Yes, what?
She really appreciates it and feels she loves herself.
I
Yes.
really feel love for myself.
Perfect,
Yes.
right.
Thank you so much, it's a good topic for me.
Really good.
Huge.
I felt, today it was funny, I was in clinical labs, just asking if we get some blood work tomorrow. And there's this gal in there, Rose, that works there, that I've known for 20 years. And I always come in, I've got gazillion vials of blood, and we laugh and laugh and laugh. And so she's not gonna be there now. And I saw her walking in, I said, Rose, you're not gonna be there now. And we're hugging, and we're bantering. And I left her thinking, that's really fun.
That's
and I
what?
thought,
Fun.
that's fun, that's
Uh-huh.
a good quality of myself. That I have, just to
Right.
kind of hang out with her,
Yeah,
and, be really Chicago friendly,
yes.
But it was real, I
Yeah.
didn't want anything, I didn't want to talk her into
Totally.
coming. And so I know, like, now, when that sort of feels real,
That's right.
or like, helping someone cross the street, you just do it,
Right.
and there's no transaction about it.
Exactly.
Right, the doing of it feels so good.
Yeah.
And there's the other stuff too, that, I like, I wanna get petted. Oh, you're a good girl. And I
Definitely a dog.
there's all those different, it's not just one thing, I'm not that way all the time, but I notice when I'm not.
Mhm.
I think that's the best I can do.
It's really good, because valuing authenticity and what the mutuality that typically comes out of it, like you were describing, Patty, is such a high frequency, really. We think it's just about ordinary commerce during life, going and coming, seeing people or not, but there's something larger going on.
I was really happy when I got in the car. I
Yeah,
felt really good.
so good.
I think for me growing up, like having all my attention particles out in a kind of hypervigilant way and giving was a survival strategy. It
Yeah,
actually
sure.
was how I felt safe. As
Yeah.
long as I'm
Same.
giving,
Same.
I'm gonna be safe.
Mhm. For sure, it would set up that way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's actually if all of you heard of flight or freeze, there's also one called fawn.
Exactly.
Yep.
And if you're in a lot of extreme stuff, that it is a survival strategy.
Exactly.
To, like, help the person calm down, feel better, and not attack you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's complex.
If it works, it creates a bit of a safe place for the person.
Okay.
Mhm.
The trick is to not keep doing that.
Right, exactly.
I'd like to just share, I had an experience that was on the other side of it. I took this Qigong workshop with Deborah. And seemed somehow a lot of people came through me, and she kept honoring me every class, like over the top. And I was getting triggered by being petted.
She was doing
She
what-
being triggered
by being pet.
by being petted, because she was overemphasizing how, she was just pointing to me a lot. And I finally pulled her off to the side and said, "You're helping me, I'm getting triggered." And it was the opposite of me
Right.
paying attention. I'm
Right.
like, okay, enough already. But it was like after the third day, it was like, whoa, this is it. And it was really good because I got to do the inner work on the trigger
Exactly.
of getting too much.
Right. Excellent.
It's weird.
Yeah, that's a good one for you, Tashina.
Yeah.
The receiving of the adulation, of the lifting up the praise. Yeah. Just a little bit, not too much.
Okay.
Anyone else on Zoom have any reflections, experience? Yeah, Michael. Yeah, you touched your glasses. That signaled to me.
That's funny. I feel engaged from my significant other.
Engaged with his significant other.
The gaze of it.
Of the gaze.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, we met with Polly the other day, a week or so ago, and Polly said something about the context. She put it, the way you live your life, Michael, is in the context of Connie. So I said, oh, that sounds like codependency for sure.
Would you be my context?
Yeah. It's so entertaining. Hmm? About what? This is kind of what this is the context, isn't it? Yeah, it's interesting. I actually had a thought today. I was playing golf this morning over at Wahoo, and I always get up to the ball and I'm concentrating on the ball and I'm trying to focus on the ball and where I'm going to put the ball. And then I thought, and I would hit the ball and I thought, I have no idea. I didn't feel anything in my body. And I thought I wasn't in my body at all. I had thought about where the ball was supposed to go, but I wasn't really experiencing playing golf. It was a really interesting dynamic. I thought this is kind of what I do, kind of go through life, going through the motions, so to speak.
A little disengaged, huh?
Yeah.
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 Well,
Yeah.
start paying attention and see if it changes your game.
Yeah, there you go.
It'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Hmm.
Yeah, showing up and being present is something that a whole lot of what I call adaptive behaviors. And adaptive behaviors are ways in which we figure out how not to experience I'm not good enough, or I don't matter, or whatever we took on as a wounded conclusion. And then the adaptive behaviors are ways for us to either avoid those or not experience them, or having the converse show up, right? So when we come home and get focused, being present where we are, embodied, because this 3D reality, the fun of it is the avatar, is the body mind unit. That's the specificity of the expression and the distinctions between all of us, which is.
It just seems like there's a gap there of like, I might be projecting on you, Michael, I don't know, but I know for myself, like, it's risky to show up. It feels risky.
Right.
Like there's a potential to lose something, or the potential to rupture something, or
If you do what?
if you show up.
Authentically?
Yeah,
All right.
that's how it kind of is wired,
Right. Yeah, well, that's because attention particles are out calibrating how I need to show up in order to make this shit work, right? This shit being whatever's going on, whether it's in the Sangha, whether it's in a friends group, or in the country, or on the island, whatever, right? So our attention particles coming back to ourselves gives us a whole different experience of the safety and the efficacy of being an expression, saying what's true for us. Yeah, we do lose that with the adaptive behaviors.
So I've been contemplating for quite a while. I thought for years I knew how to feel. And actually the last 10 years I've been kind of looking, working with that is a good place, and feeling that, and what is that?
Right.
And I'm back to wondering again. The Qigong classes have been wonderful. And I can do the movements and things, and I feel things. And every morning I sit, but what is it to be in my heart? What does that really feel like to be in my heart? And I asked my therapist, I said, what is love? And she said, connection. And that was very helpful. I think I'm asking for something more. So flesh that out or something. Because I look at on YouTube, there's this thing about people go into a shelter for dogs and then the dog picks the person. And it's very interesting to watch how the dog goes around to find a person and then they put a paw up or they jump up I find it fascinating. So there's obviously some part of me that's still trying to connect the dots. Help.
Yeah, well, one thing that'd be interesting about the dogs, you need to know their backgrounds, how neurotic they are. Because they may be picking out from a codependent place. Because I see that in dogs a lot, the kind of dynamic of codependency that gets set up. That's beside the point. In terms of love, a sense of love is the willingness to be one with, right?
What was the word one?
One. In the Old Testament, the sexual union was to know an other. David knew Bathsheba. So love has been, when we see a great work of art, or when I could see a great work of art, and you just disappear in the wonder and beauty of it, that's love. Right? When we see a friend and it's like, it's you, right? That's love. That's the losing of the self and the knowing as the other, but not in a losing yourself like you're not present, but in the attention particles go out to connect to the apparent other.
But the attention particles are still in oneself.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then, sorry, but I'm kind of going for a felt sense. There's like an expansion.
Right.
There's a presencing. I'm not saying a solidity, but there's a kind of solidity. There's an embodiment is a word I've been contemplating a lot. Please, yes, sacral request.
Yeah. So what is the question?
Well, for you, so you were talking about seeing artwork. I mean, here's Jet, she's immersed in her artwork. I mean, there's this oneness of expression.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that it's necessarily inside. There's this engagement.
Yeah, well, what we do in a 3D reality, when in the awakened state, I've mentioned this before, but one of the things that surprised me was when I opened my eyes and I had cleared out the fear-based me, then there's no separation. You experience everything as arising in your awareness because you know that you're it. And it's not a me it's an energetic, it's a frequency.
So that's the place where there are no others.
That's right.
Which is the dualism that people are talking
That's right.
about. Yeah.
Yeah.
And can I say, is that also just the here and now? Here and now, no past, no future, just here and now. Would you say that as well about?
For sure,
no
yeah,
other?
yeah, for sure. And because that past and future is a mind created
Right.
thing.
And so what you just said to me and my being is a way of saying it is no past, no future, here and now. That's all.
That's it. This is it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
And that is love, and that's what
That's
we
love.
are.
that's right.
Yeah.
Denise, did you had something?
Yeah, all of the things that you're saying, I remember having incredible experiences of, just, I called it a quantum shift of first, when I bumped into it, I called it touching the face of God, and it took me about 3 years to realize, oh, I bumped into myself. And when I opened my eyes, when it first happened, there was nothing that looked the same. And it scared me because I was a young mother, 2 kids, 2 businesses, and I was the sole, caretaker of everything. And I was in a very great place actually for many years, maybe 20 years. And where I find, well, I can't even say find myself, because right now there's been so much that's happened in the last couple of years that I've lost that connection to myself. And it is there. But I certainly see the codependency. I certainly see this tremendous fear that is coming up of abandonment and having given. And I agree so much with what you're saying. And there was a point in my life that it was, I gave because it felt good. And there would be that question as what you're talking about. Somewhere along the line, it switched. And now I'm sitting in, like, where am I?
Right.
And this pronounced fear, and maybe I'm the only one in this room, but because of certain physical health things, there is a dependence and a fear on other people as well. So maybe you can help with some baby steps to get back to one, feeling that true me that is here, and just start gently with it, because Polly, right now I'm just really lost.
Yeah, you had the Kin show, which is the first awakening, right? You had that I think that's what you said. Yeah. Yeah, and so that's like a placeholder, right? And then life's shit happening
Yeah.
everywhere like that. And it's so the possibility for you, and this can be a high bar because the shit that's happening is real, and it impedes and impacts us for sure. But it's like the place for you to remembering that when you knew who you were seeing it all. Oh my God, look at this movie. Look at this Netflix series. You were seeing it all as showing up in that way.
Exactly.
Right.
And it was great fun, and it was
Totally. That's right. And so now what's happened is that your mind has gotten engaged, whether it's because of family dynamics or aging health problems or whatever,
all of the above.
yeah, like all of the stuff of this 3D reality that we all kind of agree on, and then we all object to. It's like, how's that work? So for you to just, you probably have a meditation practice, Denise, is that right?
I do. That is even, for me, I'm really trying hard just to be gentle with myself about, I used to teach meditation. I used to meditate 2 hours a day, and it's really challenging right now just even to get back into that place. Being in community like this is easier. So I appreciate that you guys have opened this. So continue with what you were saying.
Yeah, so the place for you is going to be, and it can be incremental, because it is I don't want to say it's scary. It's not exactly scary. It's just it doesn't feel like the thing to do that would be the right thing to do. Letting go. It's like just in whatever increment you can come upon in order to be kind to yourself, to just let things be what they are. Because the way we perceive them when we are suffering with them is through the distortion lens of probably our very earliest self-conclusion. Like, I'm a piece of shit, or I don't matter, because that stuff comes back. Like and I mean, I was 70, right? I mean, we're not, I know what I'm talking about, and I know where you are, and I do know that you are in a safe place and you can be kinder to yourself about it. And that would be the direction
Thank
to,
you.
to go in. We're so glad to have you though, honey.
Thank you, I'm so glad.
I mean, that's so radical,
I know.
truly so radical, just to be kind to ourselves right where we are and everything.
Even in the middle of anxiety,
Exactly.
full on panic
That's right.
attacks, just saying.
The
this is
whole-
what it is,
the whole
try to be
mess.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, just that little aspect that perspective of awareness that says, you got this, you know, it's a pile of shit, you got it. It's just, you know, it's one of my favorite quotes from one of my teachers was, let love radiate without concern for results. And so because that love radiating, we receive that first. And then we don't have to be concerned for results.
Yeah, Sheena.
Just before Jet spoke about the present moment now, and I was sitting here and I just crumbled like the story of being concerned about being codependent and service to the reality of just being, it all just collapsed. And it just let go, and I totally felt that I didn't have to think about it at all. It was it's so empowering, and it's
So you let go of trying to do it right.
like I went to the head trip to the thing, and then yeah, the stick.
Yeah.
The whole, I mean, it didn't even have the story about the stick, but the whole thing just collapsed on itself, and
Yeah, there isn't anything going on except what we make up in our minds. It's a whole lot more vacant than we would like to believe.
that's the freedom. of
Exactly, that's the
That's
spacious
right.
freedom.
Freedom of
Yeah.
just like, this is not your business.
That's right.
Wow, thank
What
you.
if nothing's wrong?
That's right. Yeah.
So last thing is to
Well,
Dominique, and then we'll go into
What I got
meditation.
from all this, which was really prescient, you know, not having my attention particles go out. You know, that's been so helpful. But what I realized is that my attention particles going out was within me. It was where I went mental.
That's a really
Right.
insightful.
I mean, this was huge, and so it's like
That's right.
that splitting
That's
up.
really out.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you know, and so it's so insidious, you know, because the cranium's the only solid thing we have. So when everything gets, you know, we go high, you know, but that's not, you know, and it's not a thinking feeling of being in or embodiment. I guess that was the big thing for me.
Right.
It's an experiential thing.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
So-
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dominique.
So
Thank you. That
we
was-
don't usually do this, but I just want to check if there's anybody on Zoom who wants to put in chat your experience. We'll have that. I can tell it to Polly later, but I just want to give you a chance. If you haven't had a voice, go ahead and you can put that in chat. But we are going to stop the recording.
Real quick, the stick is a problem. I know it's here for the stick teacher. I don't know what the stick is. now.
The stick is a problem, she's
Develop.
asking.
She's asking about.
She's asking about the stick. And
Oh, about the polarity?
Put it
Yeah.
down the stick. Is that-
Yeah, if it's on the stick, the stick is one frequency. It just has a bad end and a good end.
Oh, yes.
That's
I got it
stick.
now.
That's stick.
Thank you. Got it.
okay, if you want to go ahead and